Urban Revolution Radio's Your Morning Show with your boy Nino and your man D Hicks on Live 99. Let us know what you want to hear at 812-303-5018 or on our Facebook page, facebook.com/live999WJCB, broadcasting live from the Acceptance Insurance Studios, 3012 Covert Avenue here on Evansville Southeast Side. Actually, Miss Amy Ross, the managing agent over there. Anyone her staff can help you out with all of your insurance needs. And if you are an independent artist or entrepreneur, you want to get your business some exposure or your music heard here on Live 99, all you have to do is hit us up on our email at ninoincognito@gmail.com or on our website at live999wjcb.com. Submit your music that way. Clean MP3 versions preferably. Let us know how we can help. And if it's on point, you could be our next independent artist or entrepreneur of the month, just like Godson Rio and Matt and Sherry Walls over there at Walls Organics. Got a great show lined up for you today. We got a chance to check out the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, that's what's up, man.
Yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home. And if you haven't seen it just yet, warning them, it's going to be some spoilers. I'm about to give you some massive spoilers because I'm going to tell you exactly what I thought about it from beginning to end. So if you don't want to spoil it, if you don't want to know anything about it, click on something, go to something else on our Facebook page, on our website, one of the other videos, you know what I mean? You can watch something else, you know what I mean? We don't want you leaving the website or leaving the app. You can always listen to something else, but it's about to be some massive spoilers here for Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, it's according to the synopsis, they say with Spider-Man's identity now revealed, in case you haven't seen Far From Home, have you been following the Spider-Man stuff?
Negative. I'm not a Marvel fan, player.
Just to get you caught up to I know you try to watch some of it and all that good stuff, but just to get you caught up, at the end of the last Spider-Man movie, the Far From Home, his identity was revealed by the villain that he was fighting, Mysterio. He broadcasted it live and everything, and it told the world that his true identity was Peter Parker, and then he ended up getting blamed. That's what got cited over there. He got blamed. He got blamed for killing Mysterio. A lot of people blame him, but Mysterio actually, killed himself by hacking some drone. This is like the second villain that Spider-Man that had killed themselves. If you've been following these Spider-Man movies out here, this is the second villain that they had that killed themselves. The first one in Spider-Man, the Green Goblin, killed himself with his own flying glider. Tried to hit Spider-Man with it. Spider-Man dodged out the way. Bomb. There go the Green Goblin, in and out the movie that quick. Then they got the next one. This Dr. Octopus. This is the third villain. Let me say third villain. This is the third villain. Because Dr. Octopus dies at the end of that movie. You know what I mean? Inadvertently trying to undo something that he had called the catastrophe in the first place. But, he got his return of conscience and all that good stuff and tried to do the right thing at the end and sacrificed his life at the end. And now this is going to be the third movie. Well, the third one was Spider-Man villain Mysterio. He dies at the end of Far From Home. This takes place after that movie. This is after the Thanos Avengers, what they call the blip. Like I said, you didn't watch it. I know you heard about Thanos doing the glove in Infinity, the snap, the infamous snap where he snapped out half of the universe. This takes place, I want to say, like 5 or 6 years after that. Everybody was gone like 5, 6 years and then got blipped back. So it's like the first 2 years, everybody's back in reality now and trying to adjust to the new civilization and new society and all this good stuff. Spider-Man's identity gets revealed. He's the most famous person in the world right now. So that brings us up to the beginning of this movie right here. So it said, with Spider-Man's identity now revealed, our friendly neighborhood web slinger is unmasked and no longer able to separate his normal life as Peter Parker from the high stakes of being a superhero. And this came from, he couldn't get into the colleges that he wanted to. Him and his two friends that was helping him throughout the little movies and everything, they actually are high school students. They were actually trying to live regular lives too, outside of doing helping Peter Parker be Spider-Man and Spider-Man being Spider-Man. They tried to apply to MIT and a couple of other schools and all the stuff because of all of the controversy that was going on. Now let's let you realize so y'all singers out here that's applying to go to school and getting ready for y'all last year, this is the second half of the semester, when they talk about your school record and all that stuff follows you, that does too, but your conduct follows you as well. If you are a distraction in any kind of way to a school, No matter how smart you are, you got to be like super brilliant for them to start putting up with quirks and distractions to other students. Because if you bringing more drama to the school than you are bringing promotion or publicity or good things to the school, they will not admit you. Nope. If you got wild stuff on your record, you can have straight A's on all your report card. But if you got 13 detentions every semester, or for talking back to teachers, or you think you smarter than the teacher, or you in the news, you got a drunk driver, you had to act, all of that stuff follows you. When it comes down to getting employment, when it comes down to getting a college entrance exams and all of that good stuff, So this is what Spider-Man, a.k.a. Peter Parker, as teenage Peter Parker,
had problems with.
Because he couldn't get back to his normal life because everybody knew he was Spider-Man now. Now, there were people, like I say, on both sides. There were people that were for him being the superhero and all the, avenging everything. And there were people who were against him, calling him a murderer because he was supposedly they think he killed Mysterio in that last movie. So it's all of the repercussions of those actions that he's facing of being a superhero and facing it like a teenager. And this is what I've always liked about the Spider-Man movies.
What's it?
They are, I think they are the realest of all of the superhero movies out there, if you can take it that way, of how a teenager in real life would be dealing with being a hero of some kind, living an extraordinary second life, and still trying to be a regular college kid, regular high school student, still going through like rest of puberty, trying to have girlfriends, keep a great, living with his aunt, his parents, both dead as far as he knows, died when he was young. So he's dealing with a lot of issues, and they bring a lot of that to front. And there's a lot of character development for Spider-Man that they do. And I like how they take different angles with it. Because, like, the other Spider-Man movies, you had the one with Tobey Maguire in it. Then you had the one with Andrew Garfield in it. And this one has, what's the dude name that stars in this one? Tom Holland. So there are three different versions of Spider-Man, like, in the past 10 years.
Right.
But each one of them, they fleshed his character out in a slightly different way. It's always the parent to a father figure or a motherly figure dies and makes him have to rethink it. But they put so many subtle twists on it. And Spider-Man can be run so many different ways. They've had old Spider-Man, young Spider-Man, black Spider-Man, Mexican Spider-Man. They can play that aspect of how to blend your normal humanity with being a superhero. Because like Captain America, he doesn't have to worry about hiding his secret identity. Everybody knows he's Captain America. He's protected by the government. He goes sleep in the government bunker. He ain't got to worry about his family. Everybody he knows been dead for like 60 years, so he doesn't have to worry about his secret identity.
Right.
X-Men, things like that. Wolverine, they didn't worry about secret identities because they had their identities out. They were mutants. We're not heroes. We're just mutants. We're just different. So there's no need for us to hide who we are. So Spider-Man is like Batman and Superman. Spider-Man is the Marvel version of, I have to hide my identity in order to be a good superhero, and I'm really just now learning how to do it. And they taking it from a perspective of a teenager. They're gonna say Spider-Man gets deep. A lot of people think it's just comic book swing because there's a lot of slapstick in the movie. Now it's true to form. Spider-Man has always balanced the deep, heavy issues with him being like sarcastically and comically funny, saying little quips at the villains in the middle of the fight, as part of his fighting technique. They say that that's his way of throwing the villains off. And dealing with his own stress by saying those sarcastic remarks in the middle of a fight and all of this good stuff. So the real character development for Spider-Man really came through, even in this movie right here. Now, this is movie number 8, I believe, in the whole Spider-Man series. Okay. But then it's like 13 movies in total because he's been in other movies in Marvel that weren't directly Spider-Man, i.e. the Avengers and things like that. So they've taken a lot of depth and a lot of time to build up to this number 8 movie, because I think it's supposed to be one more in the actual trilogy, because each one of these 3 actors, I told you, the Tom Holland, the Andrew Garfield, and the Tobey Maguire. Tom Holland, this is his 3rd movie. Tobey Maguire had 3 movies as, I think it was The Amazing Spider-Man, or Spider-Man, whichever one you want to call him. But then the 3rd one, Andrew Garfield, the kind of taller, spiky-haired one, he only did 2.
So it might be
of his own. So they're thinking about this was a great way to try to blend in and feed into him getting a third movie, because they even flushed his character out. Now, as I say, spoiler alert in there, all 3 Spider-Man end up in this movie. That was one of the big hubbubs about the whole thing, about who's all going to be. Was just going to be one, because they're dealing with the multiverse now with Doctor Strange. Now, the way it's going is, I bring you back up to speed with the kid trying to get into college, high school. They trying to deal with it. They couldn't get in. They go to see Doctor Strange. You know who Doctor Strange is?
The dude with the glasses, I think, right?
No, Doctor Strange is actually...
That's Octopus.
He's the wizard.
Okay.
Let me pull up a picture for you in case you know...
Yeah, I know you're talking about, because your man played it. There's a movie that came out.
Cumberbatch. This is Doctor Strange here.
Gotcha,
Benedict Cumberbatch. What is his name? I forgot what his last name is. Cumberbatch.
Yeah, I know you're talking about Doctor Strange. Right.
Oh goodness! But I hate when I lose the names like that. But I'm real bad with names. But it's Benedict Cumberbatch or something like that. But he's Doctor Strange, and it's just from the lead off of the last movie. Spider-Man's like, man, maybe I can go and see, the wizard guy, Doctor Strange, and maybe he could cast a spell, to kind of make everybody, make me, people not know that I'm Spider-Man or whatever. So, he goes in to see him, and like I say, the blip happens. It's been 5 years later since everybody's been gone and come back. Doctor Strange was actually the Sorcerer Supreme when he left, but now that he's come back after the 5 years, his former assistant is now the new Sorcerer Supreme, and Doctor Strange kind of has to ask permission to do certain spells before he does them. So he asked Peter Parker asked him for the one spell, to try to help his friends get into college and all that good stuff. Can they help some kind of way? And he's like, no, I can't. So he asked him, can he go back in time and change the fact of Mysterio revealing to the world that he was Spider-Man? Can you change that? And he said, no, even if he didn't have what's called the Time Stone. This is all with the previous movie. He doesn't have that time traveling capability anymore with the Time Stone to go back and do that, even if he could, if it was allowed. But he said, I don't even have that stone anymore, dude. I can't even cast that spell if I wanted to. So he was like, man, I just wish everybody could just kind of forget who I was, blah, blah, blah. And then Doctor Strange remembers, hey, well, I do have a simple spell that can make that happen. I can make everybody forget who you are.
Okay.
He was like, oh, for real? He's like, nobody will know who I'm Spider-Man? Oh, he's like, yeah, we can make the whole world forget, and your secret identity be saved and all that good stuff. So they go down to the little whatever spell area downstairs that they're going to cast a spell at. And this is where the slapstick comes in. As Doctor Strange is doing his little hand waving, casting the magic, and the little gold stuff is in the air, and you see the magic stuff, Peter Parker is steadily talking while he's casting the spell, like disrupt. So I guess he had to be there while Doctor Strange. This was one of the things I had with the story. I didn't understand why he had to be in the middle of the circle while he was, but I guess since his spell is about him, he had to be around. So he's talking like, oh, well, you said everybody's, I think, because Doctor Strange just said, okay, it was nice knowing you, kid. And he started casting the spell. He was like, what do you mean nice knowing you? He was like, well, everybody's going to forget who you are. You know what I mean? Everybody, he was like, everybody I love, my Aunt May, everybody who I told, because there were some people who he actually told his identity to that he wanted to remember. He wanted his girlfriend to remember his identity. He didn't want her to forget. He didn't want his best friend who had been helping him to forget. He didn't want his Aunt May, who he had told us he could forget, because it was so heartbreaking to tell. He was like, I don't want to have to face that telling her again, because it was just so heartbreaking for her to find out that first time, putting myself in danger, kind of other stuff, worrying about me when I go out into the streets. So it took her a while to adjust. I don't want her to have to face that. Now, mind you, he's saying all of this as Doctor Strange is casting the spell. It's like going to the grocery store and then your woman started calling you and adding more to the list and more to the list as you shopping. Like, look, man, can I just get out of this store? Quit calling me and adding more and more and more. So this is what he's disrupting the spell by saying, oh, I want this person to remember, but I need that person. So it's disrupting the whole thing, and then it kind of, backfires, and it that's when, and the end of the spell is that it starts bringing villains from other universes into his universes, but they're not his villains. They're the villains of the other two Spider-Men that were coming in later in the movie, or other Spider-Men that they have fought. Because these Spider-Men, these villains that were brought over, Jamie Foxx played Electro.
Right.
Came in back on that one. You had the Dr. Octopus dude. He came back and reprised his role. So all of the main characters who played those roles in those previous movies came back and reprised those roles as the villains. And I like that they did that. You can see it puts together all of the other movies from 10 years ago, Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and even the other trilogies, and it brings it all to a boiling kind of head. Because the first recognition you get is when this Spider-Man, our Spider-Man of this movie that we're watching, fights off against the first villain to appear, which is Dr. Octopus. Dr. Octopus realizes, hey, this is not the Spider-Man that I normally fight.
So it's a different universe.
Right. So they're like, what's going on here? You know what I mean? And that was the first beginning of it, where you get the clue, okay, here come the multiverse stuff. You realize there's going to be all kind of villains. It's like Spider-Man getting to know villains all over again that already know him, though. They got the advantage.
They don't know it's a different Spider-Man.
Right, they're trying to figure it out too. So then comes Jamie Foxx's character, Electro, and then the Green Goblin comes in with your man Willem Dafoe. He plays such a great Green Goblin. He just has that face for Green Goblin. You know what I mean? He got that. He can put them teeth. He got a certain couple of spaces in between his teeth when he smiles, and it's really no makeup necessary for him to play that Goblin character. I think it fits so well with him. So Green Goblin comes in and everybody's realizing, okay, we're in different multiverses, we're in different universes. Okay, we got to find out what's going on. Now, this is one of the other problems that I had with the thing. Doctor Strange comes up with the plan to say, okay, I got a spell that can send all of these villains back. You bring them here, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to cast a spell, and they're going to go back to the original universes. But the catch was, they were brought over from universes in which they had originally died. They were brought in like at the moment, right before their Spider-Man or whatever was going to kill them, had killed them, and they brought them back on. So if to send them back, you would be, in essence, sending them back to die. And our Spider-Man, young Spider-Man, you got to remember, he's the youngest of the three Spider-Men that are in this movie. He's the teenage Spider-Man. They brought in Andrew Garfield. He's kind of like the older, maybe 21, 22-year-old who's supposed to be Spider-Man. And then they bring in the Tom Holland, who's the more maturer, maybe 28, 29, 30-year-old Spider-Man with more experience, all this good stuff. So you can see the three phases of Spider-Man in one movie played by three different characters. But they all seem seamless to me. Like, to me, even when I looked at all three of them in that movie standing there, all I saw were three Spider-Man. They were all just Spider-Man to me.
Yeah, we feel me. That's just too much for me to remember, homie.
Man, but like I said, I'll follow it.
It's not my cup of tea, player.
It's just, and even like the way that they portray these Spider-Man, I can relate them back to the other comic books and stuff that I've read before, and kind of like, okay, this story must have been about this Spider-Man. Or this was Tom Holland's Spider-Man in this. Because in the comics, it's not Tobey Maguire, Tom Holland, and Andrew Garfield in the characters. But some of the personality traits in these comics, I've been learning to look at and say, okay, that could have been that Spider-Man doing that, or the Amazing Spider-Man, or the Black, because it's Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Neighborhood Spider-Man, different labels of comic books that have their own path and origins and stuff. So Spider-Man came out like so many different ways, but I like the way that they brought these three Spider-Men together from three different movie franchises, with three different background stories, and Sony bought all of that stuff all into a head and brought them all together. But like I said, another part I had a problem with is when Doctor Strange says, I got a spell to fix all this. But, like I say, it's going to send them back. They're going to be at the moment that they left, and it's going to be at that point that they might die, So Spider-Man has a problem with this now. So he He pulls what I call like the Star-Lord move in the old. If you watch the Avengers Endgame, you know Star-Lord messed up the whole plan by punching Thanos in the face, and they couldn't get the glove off of him, snapped him out the spell, and then they end up losing the battle. So this is what Spider-Man ends up doing. He has some kind of guilty conscience, you know, from his Aunt May using the legendary words, "With great power comes great responsibility," instead of it being his Uncle Ben this time saying it. This Spider-Man, his Aunt May tells him as she's dying now.
Okay, yeah.
By the hands of the Green Goblin. You know, the new Green Goblin that came. Right. So young Spider-Man, he's mad. He's trying to deal with the death. He wants to quit and all this good stuff. But he remembers Aunt May's words. He steals the magic little box that Doctor Strange makes that contains that first spell that went wrong. He put it in a magic little box and was going to reverse it and undo everything, send it back. Spider-Man don't want to do that. He said, I can cure him. Let me cure the villain first. You know what I mean? And then we'll send them back to the universe and maybe they won't die. He was like, there still was no guarantee that was going to happen, but that just shows the kind heart, I wouldn't even want to say naivete of a teenager. Trying to be a hero. Still in that I can save everybody. You know I just thought, but at least I can try to save these guys. He don't want to kill nobody. He don't want to hurt nobody. You know, he's never killed anyone before. Those other two Spider-Man had already dealt with death by, you know, their Dr. Octopus and their Green Goblin and their Electro died or whatever in their universe. So they had already dealt with death before of a villain or close loved one like that. This young Peter Parker had not in this movie. So now he's got to come to terms with, I got to try to save these villains first. So he actually fights Doctor Strange. And this is one of the funniest, slapstickest superhero versus superhero fights that I've ever seen. If you ever seen any of the Doctor Strange movie, he pulls the move where he knocks Spider-Man's soul out of his body. I call it the soul punch. He knocks his soul out of his body, you know what I mean, separates it. But his body is still dodging Doctor Strange as he's like, his spider sense is taking over, even without his soul being in his body. And the hand is moving like this, trying to keep the box away from it's hilarious. This is some slapstick. Then you see Spider-Man like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man swimming like a spirit in the air trying to get back to his body.
Okay.
So they put a little, slapstick humor, but that's what I say, that's what they do. With the Spider-Man movies, they balance the darkness of dealing with death.
Just too much me to remember, homie.
Man, but it's like I said, I go way back with it. So it's all kind of making connections and blending together. So I'm trying to give you and explain it to you as somebody who's never seen any of it. Don't want any of it, So I don't want to get too deep.
But see, I grew up on Dolomite, things like that. You know what I'm saying? I grew up on Dolomite. The real superhero.
Dolomite was in the MCU, boy. Pimp power on hand.
Yes. Yeah, I grew up on Dolomite, man.
Oh, I eat shield instead of railroad. That's my superpower. Dolomite, yes. Man. But Spider-Man, this one right here, this No Way Home is a great movie. Like I say, even if you've never seen the other two, they give enough references of what happened in those other Spider-Man and Avengers movies and all that stuff. So like I say, I like how Marvel does that. You can jump in at any point in these Marvel trilogies, these Marvel sequences, jump right in, get the movie, and ride the wave and do your own back research if you want to. And actually, ride the wave just like everybody else. You don't have to know the lore behind it. You don't have to have seen all 19 movies before that. You can jump in at any given point and watch any movie independently of the other ones and still be able to enjoy it as a movie on its own. But if you're a fan like me, I love how they tied all of these old knots that were left untied from the other movies in this movie. They brought all these villains. So Spider-Man is fighting Doctor Strange, blah, blah, blah. He finds a way to cure the villains. That's the whole, gets it. And then they ended up sending everybody back home. But then the three Spider-Men have this moment on the roof of one of the tall buildings, because Spider-Man was still our young Spider-Man in this movie is dealing with the death of his aunt at the hand of the Green Goblin, killed it, and he feeling like it was his fault, Goblin playing psychological games with him, like, if it wasn't for you, Spider-Man, she wouldn't be there, and I wouldn't have killed her, So as a teenager, that's getting to him, he's really feeling like it's his fault, and that part right there is what connects his origin of Spider-Man to the other two, because each one of those other two had that same somebody close to me got killed because of me type thing. So now this is his somebody close to me died because of my actions moment.
So
And I love how they tied all three together, but just didn't regurgitate the same thing from the other two series and just make you watch the same origin story over and over again, trying to fill up time and all that good stuff. They came with a totally side, side origin story, side motivational story, side love interest and all that good stuff. But I like how they compared them. They actually sat down and did their own little powwow. Yeah, I lost this person, I fought for this person. And you can see how they are all connected and the same, but each individual, nuanced in their own way, their own personalities, what makes them who they are. One of the other funny moments is when the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, the more mature Spider-Man, shoots his web out of his wrist, and the other two Spider-Men are amazed. His webs in his universe come out of his hand. Versus the other two Spider-Man, like according to original Spider-Man lore continuity, Spider-Man has to make his web cartridges. So his Spider-Man was the first one to have his webs to be organic. And they were looking like, dude, how do you do that? They was like super amazed at it. And he was like, you guys can't do that. You're spiders. You can't make your own web. That's what spiders do. He's like, no, we ain't. He's like, does it come out anywhere else? So like I said, once again, even in the dark tone, I ain't gonna say it's like super dark, but just like the serious tone of the movie, they found a way still to crack jokes, bring the levity, bring the campiness of Spider-Man into the movie. And I really think they did a real good job. Pulling it all together. Another one little tidbit I want to give a shout out to the makers of this Spider-Man movie versus the other villains. I love how they did Electro, Jamie Foxx's Electro, in this movie. In the other movie, they kind of like used the computer stuff to make his skin like blue to try to make him look electric, like a black man in blue skin face and all that kind of. So and it really didn't touch home with a lot of comic book fans and even people who weren't really in on the in on the back of it, who were watching it for the first time. It just didn't seem like he was a convincing threat of a villain. He was walking around with
comedy. He's more more comedy than he was a villain.
I wouldn't say comedy. It was you felt sorry for him. You know what I mean? In that movie, he was like a guy who was just used and abused. His job didn't appreciate him. He worked for like some techno company that dealt with electricity. They was just like abusing him every turn they get. And he ends up having an accident because somebody didn't follow their safety protocol. They was like, oh, it's just dude over there. He ain't worried. And that safety protocol malfunctioned. He ended up falling into like the vat of the electric eels and the chemicals. And always, somebody falling into something. Say, I like the joke, and you're falling into something. But, the way they developed him in the first movie, you felt sorry for him. Like, man, why did the bad stuff keep happening to this guy, and all this dude ever wanted was just recognition for the work that he did, and everybody just keep shitting on him and kept taking shortcuts with him, shorting him on his money, knocking stuff out of his hand and all that kind of other stuff. So when he got those powers, you kind of like was like, yeah, go ahead and do some damage real quick. You kind of felt something, but they made this like skin like blue with like almost electric lines going through it and all that. So it really didn't look all that villainesque. Or, because he wasn't really a villain then. He was just a dude that just been in an accident and didn't know how to control these powers he just got.
Right. See, that's what I said, man. I just can't get into the Marvel movies.
Man, what I'm saying is once you get past the so-called science fiction, because I know that's what's throwing you off of it.
I can't get to science fiction, period.
When you look at it as just a regular story of why these people are doing what they do, man, I'm telling you, Marvel does it the best out of just DC sucks at it. Their animated movies on DC, they flush them out good. I don't know who's making a DC anime.
Right,
but they DC like Superman and Batman
but
and
it'd be
Justice League.
something that just never, even as a kid, man, I never got into comic books or DC.
I love the stories with the little bit of the extra flair on it.
Nah, man, I like that true life shit. Bro.
But you can apply it to real life. It's like Marvel, the way they do it is not so far off the reality of how a normal person would act in this extraordinary situation.
People don't have superpowers, cuz.
But I mean, okay, but just put it like this. A dude who was ignored all his life, bullied, ends up becoming chief of police.
Becoming chief of police.
And now, I mean,
but those are powers, though, that people passed on to him to give him that authority. See the difference between powers and authority.
But with great power comes great responsibility. They go hand in hand.
Right.
You know, you spoke that. Now, see, I got you.
Yeah,
I hit you with the Spider-Man. See how it applies to real life?
Right.
You got to find your way. But like I said, that's how I get into the movies that way. I try to, associate what the real life aspects of what they're trying to convey. Because if it's too far off the beaten path of reality, then you get really into the science fiction. You got to throw your belief out the window.
Out the window.
You know what I mean? And just go along with the story. But I like how they try to tie a lot of the realism of the emotions of the characters in these movies with them on the Marvel side. Like I say, Marvel fleshes out their characters a hell of a lot better than DC, and especially when it comes to Spider-Man, because it's so emotional. Like when he died in the Endgame movie, there were people in the audience crying because he was crying in the movie. It's a teenager that's facing death. All he ever tried to do is be a hero and save the world, and he's about to die now, being blipped out, and he starts crying like, I don't want to die. Okay, and then it was bringing tears to people's eyes, Joe. But once again, this whole movie, this No Way Home, is a wrapping up of all, like I say, the loose ends that were from the other two versions of the Spider-Man, and connecting their universes back to the Sony universe, main Marvel universe, and still being able to have a main character that's still trying to find his own with his own powers. And I said once with the Jamie Foxx, I like how they did his Electro, because every time he used his powers, he steals like some technology that, Spider-Man was given by Iron Man, and he ends up trying to use it to get his own electric powers even more powerful.
Right.
But they paid tribute to the old Electro in the comic books, who used to wear this mask that had lightning bolts coming out the face, like yellow lightning bolts shapes coming out of the face mask.
Right.
When he used his powers, you would see the lightning bolts flash out into that shape on his face. So it was a nice little homage to the old Electro in the comic book. Like I say, they got something for everybody. Marvel does it for the old comic book heads that go way back, and even for the new people who've never watched the movie before. You can jump in any one of these Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, and man, just ride the wave.
I hear you, homie.
You know what I mean? So I'm giving Spider-Man No Way Home 2 thumbs up. I wish I had 4 hands, because I would give it 4 thumbs up. You know what I mean? Like your man Rick James said on that shit. But I'm gonna give it 4 thumbs up though, because the storyline is great, cinematics is great, graphics is great. They didn't go overboard or too corny or campy on the CGI.
Right.
It was believable graphics, all that kind of stuff. You didn't have to take yourself too far out of disbelief to be a part of this, to enjoy the storyline, and it tied up a whole bunch of loose ends and brought all of those Spider-Man into one collective little universe, gave them their own little wrap up, and even led into a possible another movie for Andrew Garfield. So
y'all have fun at it.
You know what I mean? Go in there and see it. If you haven't seen it yet, Spider-Man No Way Home is still in theaters now. You know what I mean? Go ahead out and check it. Preferably go and see it at the AMC theater. I'm giving that because I own stock in AMC, so let that be a disclaimer. If you go and see it in the AMC theater like that and enjoy it. Maybe even in IMAX. Ooh, dude, I wish I could have seen that in like IMAX with the super. I'm so deep into that kind of stuff right there. So that's 2 thumbs up for Spider-Man No Way Home. You know what I mean? If you haven't seen it yet, go out and see it. If you already seen it, go and see it again. And I'm telling you, it's worth it, because it's gonna be some stuff in there that you missed. I saw a whole bunch of YouTube videos that was talking about like 25 Easter eggs and all that kind of stuff. And I saw them as I was watching the movie. And you'll be amazed at all the little subtle references that they make to other movies, to older comic books and all that. Man, they took their time.
That's good.
Took their time with this movie. So Spider-Man No Way Home in theaters right now. Nino, 2 thumbs up. Go ahead and see it. Check it out. Wish I had a promo code to get a discount, but maybe go to a veteran-friendly movie theater. AMC, maybe they give you a 10% veteran discount. Still learning how to use mine. It's Urban Revolution Radio's your morning show with your boy Nino and your man D Hicks, broadcasting live from the Acceptance Insurance Studios on Live 99. Don't forget to like and share on our Facebook page. Share it with your friends. Help spread the word about the revolution.